Thank you, John. So our guest speaker.
Introduce yourself.
Oh, I never introduced myself, but I should. I'm Amy Juergens. I am the director of the Entrepreneurship Center and Focus Suites here. I also wanted to say that Wes is also a Focus Suites member, so he has an office here. So our guest speaker today is Cassi Smith, owner of Movame. Sorry, I drew that out. I just wanted to make sure I pronounced it correctly.
Great.
And she is a transition coach, and she is here to tell us about her journey today. So Cassie's going to stand up and walk around a little bit, so I'm going to take a seat, and floor is yours, Cassi.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
So yes, my name's Cassi Smith. My business is Movame. I am a master certified professional coach with a focus of transitions, and so transition coach. I guide multi-passionates to challenge social norms, reconnect with their internal values, and create the life they really want. Excuse me. So in short, that's helping people live outside of the box, and I like to do that with one-on-one coaching currently. And so who here, often when we, apologize, I'm misspeaking. Who here is busy? Anybody? Yeah, pretty busy. We're yes, same. We often are juggling a lot. We're spinning a lot of plates. So I help people put those plates down that are no longer serving them. Sometimes it's plates that they don't think they can put down. And sometimes we put those down gently, and sometimes we smash them to pieces. It really just depends on the person. And so I'll just real quick share with you, what is multi-passionate? Aren't we all multi-passionate? We have a lot of passions. And the multi-passionate that I'm talking about is the people like myself who go really deep into the rabbit hole and they become masters of their passions. And there's a lot of approaches. By the way, this isn't pretty for you guys. This is really just to keep me on track. So don't expect anything fancy. It's really just words to help me remember. So there's a lot of approaches to the multi-passionate lifestyle. And I'm not going to go into all of those details. I'm just going to show my approach, what my journey was like, and that's what I learned it as is the Phoenix approach, which sounds really cool. Really, I just burned to the ground. No, I'm kidding. So there's a lot of terms for multi-passionates. You might know it as Renaissance person, Jack or Jane of all trades, polymath, butterfly. There's loads of terms for multi-passionates. What I learned it as was multi-potentialite, which was a really fun word to use in interviews. And that's from Emily Wapnick, her TED Talk, and then ultimately her book that I read that kind of opened my mind to these non-traditional paths. So I wanted to explain that because understanding that term really was pivotal for me in my journey. And if that term, as we go along, doesn't resonate with you, it probably resonates with someone that you know. And often entrepreneurs are multi-passionate. We wear a lot of hats. And then we get to the point of burnout, and then we want to delegate and pass it off, pay someone else to do it. And our multi-passionate creativity is often stifled starting at a young age. So a story that comes to mind for me is when I was asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I remember my answer being, I want to be an art teacher during the week and then a doctor on the weekend. And I thought as a kid that was totally reasonable, like I should do that. And I was quickly told, no, you can't do that. And now that I've learned more about the multi-passionate side of paths, there are actually people who do those combinations. It might not be art and doctor, but they have those combo jobs of what they do. So because we go so in depth into those passions, these are our superpowers or strengths. And so that's idea synthesis, rapid learning, adaptability, big picture thinking, relating and translating information. And those are also helpful for me to learn because it built some more confidence and made more sense what I was experiencing when I found the community of people like me, and it's what I get to help people do now. So Movame, she was asking how to pronounce it. That's how I pronounce it. So what does that even mean? Well, it's a completely made up word. I made it up. So it is the first two letters of money, variety, and meaning. And that, again, I mentioned Emily Wapnick, their multi-potentialite information that I found. And I'll do a quick overview of what it means, but you have sliders for each word, basically. So money, you kind of move that slider. How much money do you need to survive and to also fuel your passions? Which is important for multi-passionates. You kind of just move that where you need it to be. The next slider would be variety. Do you have enough variety of what you do in the day-to-day, in and out of work? So that's important, is to recognize that you need variety for multi-passionates outside of work also. And some people like a lot of variety and some people like a little. It really just depends on the person. That's why there's a slider, and these are always moving. So then on to the meaning portion. Where do you derive meaning? What are you passionate about? What do you care about? Do you want to go to your job and really care about your job? You put a lot of energy into it and that fulfills you? Or do you want to go to a job where you show up and it doesn't require too much brain power, and then you get to go home and do other things that you really are wanting to pay attention to, like going out and you play music. So that's kind of the quick info on those two. So traditional path, whose path looks like this? It's a straight arrow. You have the job that you always wanted. No hands. Okay, because I was going to ask you to leave. I'm kidding. I'm very happy for people who get to do that, if they're truly happy. And so, yeah, we have that traditional path of you go to high school, you get that diploma, you go to college, you get your degree. You use that degree in the career that you choose, that you always wanted, and you get really, traditional, like what you want is having great benefits. Maybe you get married, have kids, retire. And then one step further, all of your relationships in your life are happy, healthy, with zero resentments, right? I haven't met anyone who's had a straight shot. I don't think so, at least. So this is often what happens. You kind of bounce around and all that. However, we're told, we see people's perceived paths as the traditional, or we're told the traditional is what we want to achieve. However, it's really challenging when you are comparing yourself, to that traditional path that isn't actually usually accurate. So, my formal education, I did my first year at Hastings College. I was recruited to play softball for them, and then I chose, my major was psychology. And why I chose that, I had enough unhealthy relationships to where, friends, family, partnerships and otherwise, that were unhealthy, and I just wanted to understand why people did the dumb things that they did. That is really why I chose it. I also, in that first year, found my love for traveling. I studied abroad for a month. I lived in Italy and France, and it was fabulous, and I still love to travel to this day. After my first year, I decided that college softball wasn't for me. It wasn't fun for me anymore. And so I chose, and that was half of my scholarship, so I just chose to transfer, and I chose UNL. I kept my psychology major, and about halfway through my third year of college, I decided to change my degree, or my major. So from psychology, and I switched it to education. And I chose that. I was looking back on why did I choose education, and it really, I think, was my comfort path, because I grew up around kids. I knew I would be a good educator, and also it kept me on my same trajectory of graduating because I was ready to be done. I actually initially didn't want to go to college. It's not that I didn't value the college, education system. I just couldn't possibly imagine choosing, and that's where that multi-passionate comes in. I couldn't choose what I wanted to focus on. Yeah, you could double major, you could minor and all of that, but you ultimately have to go down these specific ways of doing it, and I felt very frustrated by that. I just wanted to pick and choose, and I also am really drawn to the apprentice style learning where I just want to get in and learn. Obviously you can't do that with every job, but a lot of the times we're just like figuring it out as we go. So my work experience, I had 22 jobs, or worked in 22 workplaces in 17 years. Here are some of them. I can count, I swear, this is just some of them. And I was a manager, trainer. I created SOPs for standard operating procedures for small businesses and worked closely with small business owners. A lot. I'm not going to go. Yes, that one was fun.
That one kind of pops off.
Yeah, I can talk about that later. Yeah, that one just kind of happened, as I will explain how and why. And so I gained a lot of skills and experiences within these, and a lot of assumptions that people make when they see how many experiences I have is, oh, she can't stick to anything, no job loyalty, she's probably a bad employee and got fired, whatever, insert random things people thought. And I actually excelled in my roles. I had that rapid learning, so one of my bosses actually called me a sponge once, which at first I didn't understand. What do you mean by sponge? Should I be offended? I don't understand. And he just said that I just soak up information. And then also outside of my work times, I liked to just figure it out more. And also the other superpower of the idea synthesis, where I can take that information and kind of, I don't know if this is a word, but efficientize, make things more efficient. And I really enjoyed doing that. My brain can't not do that. And I often had 2 jobs at once. At one point I had 4 jobs, which was fun. And what would happen is I would kind of get bored in my jobs, and so then I'd go get another one. And sometimes it was to pay the bills, but often it was I didn't have that variety piece. I was missing that. And I also, if I already had my max number of jobs, and I wasn't looking for another one, if I was at my workplace and I ran out of things to do, I couldn't fathom not working. If I'm on the clock, I need to do something. And so I would go find other people who might need help in doing their job, or hey, I have some time, and teamwork. And I'd go to my bosses, hey, is there anything I can go do? And so a lot of you might know the term quiet quitting. You all kind of know it's, okay, I don't need to elaborate. So have you heard of quiet promoting? So that is what I just described. You take on someone else's role or tasks, and you aren't paid more. So I kind of shot myself in the foot in that realm by doing that, because at one of my jobs, I actually had 3 additional people's jobs at one point, and it was a lot. So like I said, I would master the job, I get bored, I would see, since I was taking on those roles of my boss, I would see, I don't actually think I want your job. And if I didn't see any trajectory for me to, as you're supposed to, traditionally move up in the company you're at, and I didn't see a different path at that business to move up in that realm, I didn't really see the point in staying. And and actually multi-passionate, if you have a job that doesn't align with your values and goals, it's extremely draining to stay in them. Some people are fine with that, and that's great. I just couldn't do it. And so with my job searches, I put a lot of thought into every single job search. Sometimes it felt like throwing spaghetti at the wall, seeing what stuck, and maybe sometimes that was the case. But as I looked back at everything I did, I started to see a through line for the things that I enjoyed. And so I I thought that I loved working, and I do. However, it was actually, I realized that it was that I loved learning and I loved novel experiences. And then also that most of my jobs were service related. So I like to help people. So that was really helpful in my job searches once I recognized that is the through line. And so then I could make intentional choices going forward. So unfortunately, at a lot of these jobs, I was in unhealthy or toxic workplaces. I really struggled with the resistance to change. So if I did find that pain point and a more efficient way of doing something and posed the solution, and the workplace was resistant to change, even though it ultimately benefited their employees, my coworkers, or the clients that they served, ultimately their business, then I didn't understand why they wouldn't. I also found myself being an advocate for people in the workplace. I could go on a lot of stories with that as far as how women are treated in the workplace, how mentally disabled people are treated in the workplace, but I am going to stick to one story that encapsulates my catalyst of my entrepreneurial journey. And it has a lot of recurring themes that go through my journey. So when I was 25, I was working as a teacher and a cake decorator. I was trying to remember. And I got a call and found out that my dad actually had a heart attack. And we found out that it was due to an unknown congenital heart defect. So we were in the ICU out of state for 2 weeks, and I was getting phone calls. And you would think, oh, that's nice, people are checking in on you, which yes. And I also got phone calls from my boss, my landlords at the time, and my partner at the time, which were not always great. So first with the workplace, one of my bosses, ultra supportive. She had been through something similar. She understood. She said, be there with your family, all of that. And we were going day to day. We didn't know what was going to happen. We were talking to so many specialists every day, and it's kind of a waiting game in some of these scenarios. You can't know what's going to happen. And so, yeah, we didn't know if he was going to pull through or not. He ultimately did not. But throughout this, the phone calls I was getting so that boss that wasn't as supportive it seemed like she was calling me every other day. Hey, what's going on? Yeah, I don't know what's going on. You know as much as I do. And said, oh, you're putting your coworkers out. They're mad at you. And she showed really no empathy for me. And I really felt like I was in the wrong. I thought it was bad for me to be with my family. So then onto the landlord phone calls and emails. They wanted me to, this might all sound really wacky that all of this is happening at the same time. And so they wanted me to renew my lease for higher rent out of nowhere. It wasn't like my lease was up or anything. And they were not fixing the issues that I was having in that home, even though the city informed them they had to, because I had actual fungus growing in my windows, like mushrooms, and also a furnace that was not working properly in the Nebraska winters. It was cold. And so I said, because these issues were happening for 6 months to a year at that point, and I said, I am not signing a new lease till I see you actually making change. They didn't like that, so they evicted me. And this again is happening while I'm in the hospital. The last phone calls that I'll talk about are from my then partner, and we'll just say generally unsupportive, and we were not in a healthy relationship. So I was able to take that time to kind of slow down and enjoy my family, and it kind of made me take a really hard look because of all of this absurd stuff happening all at once. I kind of looked around and I said, I don't like any of this. I kind of had zero extra energy for baloney, we'll say. And it helped me tap into this innate intuition that caused me to take each piece. So anything that wasn't causing me joy, it needed to change or it needed to go. And the inspiration for that was my dad, because he worked really hard to build his business. So he was also an entrepreneur, and he was, great dad, husband, all of that, and we got to spend time with him. However, he was working a lot, and he was starting to plan to step away and spend even more time with us. He had 2 grandchildren at that time. And it just felt extremely unfair to me that he didn't get to do that ultimately. So I thought to myself, well, why would I wait? Why wouldn't I create what I wanted to do and enjoy the things that ultimately people enjoy later in life? So that's where multi-passionate, I found the multi-potentialite, multi-passionate lifestyles about 6 months after he passed. And that was the first time I did a total upheaval of my life. I could have stayed and kept everything the same. That is an option. I just didn't see it as an option because I needed to be happier. And actually next week is the 9-year anniversary of all of that happening. So in that journey, it helped me revisit my values, and I do that now at every transition. So I did it then, I did it in jobs going forward, and then when I got married, when my husband and I had to make the choice to go no contact with his parents, when I created my business, when I had a kid, which those last 2 happened at the same time because I apparently love challenge or chaos, both maybe. And each time I made these changes to walk away from unhealthy or toxic workplaces or relationships, my happiness increased. And I kind of learned that my energy was going towards things that I just did not care about. A lot of drama, it just wasn't in my values. I just wanted kind people in my life and kind environments. And I learned that the feeling of I can't go back to that. So anytime my habits start to pull me that way, nope, we're gonna go this way. And anytime I push myself outside my comfort zone, amazing things have happened. So my dad is my what I call my entrepreneurial guiding light. And so both my parents were entrepreneurs. I kind of got used to that lifestyle. And when I was right before he had his heart attack, I was considering changing from teaching and going to culinary school. And I just thought to myself, like, gosh, that seems random, right, Dad? Like, I shouldn't do that. And he said, well, this is the time to do it, and any experience is good experience, so just go for it. So I think he was also a multi-passionate, or I know that he was, and it would have been really cool to have that conversation with him when I learned more about it. So basically what I was looking for in that journey is I wanted someone to help me sort through I had so many skills, many experiences, and a lot of passions. And I wanted someone to take the puzzle pieces and make it make sense because I couldn't figure it out. And so, I mean, there was a lot of experiences and passions and everything there. So I found coaches, I found consultants, I read books, I took all the personality tests. The books that I read were ones that were of the non-traditional paths and really encouraged me to pursue that. And I had sought out the advice from loved ones, which loved ones are great, they love us, right? They do tend to have their own biased viewpoints, and they might be in that traditional path and it might not align with you. And then also, they know a version of you. They don't have that unbiased viewpoint, and you know yourself the best. So when I was going through this exploration, I made this spreadsheet. And I put every job opportunity, every volunteer possibility that I thought sounded interesting, and I started to research and sort all of that out. And I shared my husband on it, and he added to it as well. And I called it Cassi's Sanity, with a little smiley face at the end, because I needed to make this frustrating thing funny. So I didn't ultimately find that puzzle master to help me. I found a lot of valuable insight from those previous supports. However, I just didn't find I found myself having people make assumptions about myself and push me down those traditional paths. And I started having conversations or they didn't even know, those people didn't know what to do with me, which I didn't blame them because I didn't know either. So I started to feel like a misfit, or that there was something wrong with me, like my ideal lifestyle is unattainable. So I started having conversations with people in my circle because I was having these changes, and they noticed, and they started sharing that they also wanted a non-traditional approach, and they just weren't finding that right type of support for them. And I shared the skills, approaches, tools that I was learning along my route. And then I started to think, well, they shared that it would be helpful, that it was helpful for them. So I thought, well, if I can figure out my own puzzle pieces and kind of do it, just accidentally for other people, then what does it take to be a coach? And so I looked into it, and I found I wanted to be certified. I just wanted to make sure I had the right approach about it. And so I looked into programs and picked one that I really enjoyed. And I got to coach within that program. They have you practice, of course, and I fell in love with it. It was really great to help people slow down, break that autopilot survival mode, and pay attention to what they really wanted and find their own answers. Because when you're thinking outside of the box, the support matters. So when I talk about ICF Certified Coach, ICF stands for International Coaching Federation, and that's who I'm certified through. We have guidelines and core competencies that we have to follow. And so what I do is I'm a collaborative partner with clients. I help them with the skills, experience, and tools that I have to ask the questions to help them find their answers. And I focus on the present and the future. I don't go into the past because that is a therapist's realm, and they have specific guidelines that prevent us from that, and I am really okay with that because there's a reason why I switched from psychology. I don't tell you what to do. That's more consultant and mentor zone. This is all going off of what I learned in ICF. This, just for the record, doesn't mean other coaches do anything wrong. So I don't tell you what to do, that's more, consultant mentor zone. So I'm not a consultant, a mentor, or a therapist. Like I said, they give guidelines to help us differentiate that explicitly. What I do specifically, I have client-led sessions. We chat about what they want to work on initially, and then each session they come with, a possible roadblock that they're encountering, and we work through that. And it really just depends on the person, how we're going to approach it. I throw in my tools and experiences that might be helpful, but I ultimately have them. They're kind of in the driver's seat, and I'm the passenger in a way. And what I found in the coaching world is that, I don't know if you've all seen the coach that say, oh, follow my framework and you're gonna make $1 million, right? I don't have that. I am the expert at what I do, but you are the expert of you. So it really just comes down to you learning more about yourself, which is a huge part of what I do, because we slow down, I say that a lot, and I fully see you and hear you and what you want, and we don't really worry about anyone else's opinions, and we take into account what's going on in your life. However, we still want to figure out how we can get you where you want to go. So I'm an accountability partner, and that looks different for every person. What works for one person might stress another person out, so we come to that agreement of what accountability looks like to them. boundary work, which is my favorite. I've actually been called the boundary Jedi and a boundary queen, which is pretty fun. I enjoy that.
Are you allowed to set boundaries with like family members, like
Yes.
your wife?
Yes, a million times yes.
Not to interrupt what you've got going on.
No, it's okay. I'm actually almost done, so
Oh.
yeah.
If you could finish up.
I'd love to chat more.
The closer the person is to you, the harder it is to set that boundary.
Yes,
And-
absolutely. I agree.
Anyway, finish. Sorry.
It's a process.
I-
You're fine. And we squash the limiting beliefs that the traditional viewpoints do put on you. And we create a map, a roadmap. We honor where you are, and we figure out where you want to go. And that where you want to go could change over time, but the tools are supposed to help you if things do change. How can you still stay on track? This is where I let people dream big. We don't put limitations on it, because once we start getting that logical brain, it kind of mixed in with what we know we want to do, and you talk yourself out of it, it's just unhelpful. So we go big, and then we figure out the logistics later. And during this journey, because of what I've been doing, for 9 years now, making all these changes and just getting better at it, people told me, well, people don't like change. And since my brain doesn't work that way, okay, I get that. And so I try to just make it fun. Like, how can we make this transition, this change fun for you? And so this is near the end of my presentation. This QR code will take you to the resources page of my website, and that will take you to, that holds the resentment inventory, as I call it. And that just gets you to bring some awareness to where you might be feeling some resistance and where you might want to make some change. And if you happen to know someone who is a multi-passionate person who doesn't feel like they fit in the conventional boxes, and they're stuck in their routines, you can send them my way, even if that's to my social media pages. I just really don't want people to feel alone in this journey. So if they can have that person or community behind them to get brave and build their confidence, then that's truly all I want. And yeah, thank you, SEC Entrepreneurship Center, Ray, Amy, and Brooke, who's not here. You've been an immense help in the past year that I've known you, and I appreciate you very much. I'm gonna stop there before I get emotional. Thank you. Also, thank you all of you entrepreneurs out here. Your love and support is wonderful, and I appreciate getting to be a part of a plate that you don't mind spinning today. So that's the end of my thing. Does anyone have any questions or? Okay.
Have you read Craig Rochelle's Beard? Because normal isn't working.
I love that. No, I haven't.
That's a good book.
Okay, I'm gonna take note of that. I'm
Yes.
gonna have you remind me later because I won't remember right now. But I love that. That's very cool. Thank you. Well, I must have done a good job.
I can ask questions.
I expected you to.
Yeah. You know, I was hoping you didn't show up. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. What's your question?
When you, I don't know, it was like the third or fourth slide there, when you put up that list of kind of like who you were.
Yeah. As
kinda
in.
like, so go back to.
Yours is the hotel maintenance
The
question.
hotel maintenance stuff. No, go back
This?
a couple more.
Okay.
That's definitely yes. Keep going back.
Because this is getting towards the beginning.
I know.
Okay.
It's like literally the second or third.
This?
Go back one more. No,
That's it?
That's it? Okay, go forward.
I'll go slower.
No. Go back.
I'll go slower.
Maybe it was this one.
Yeah.
So, when you're going through this, it's like you're explaining a lot.
Yes.
And then when you said something about having to put the puzzle pieces together.
Yeah.
if you find the puzzle master, let me know, because I have my puzzle, I have a 1,000-piece puzzle, and it's in 1,000 different counties.
Yeah.
Each piece is
I get that.
gone. So it's interesting that you put this other together, because you've done in a short time what it's taken my entire life to do. So congratulations. I definitely understand, having the multiple jobs, the multiple experiences, being a sponge. And once you learn something, it's like, yeah, okay, I got it.
Moving on.
And it's like a little kid walking around a playground picking up rocks.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, this one's cute too. Let's check out the rock.
Yep.
But I think as I look around the room, and I know most of the people in the room here, there's definitely more than one multi-passionate person.
For sure.
In this room. So I appreciate you sharing.
Yeah.
That part of the adventure, and I'd like to sit down and talk to this.
Absolutely. I'm open to that. Great.
And we were talking, Ray and I were talking, how not seeing the name of your company yesterday. We were with the board up there. We're like,
Honestly, it doesn't really bother me. I mean, the letters are there, and it's made up. So I've actually changed how I say it since I started. Awesome. Yes.
Don't you find entrepreneurs in themselves are faceted or multi-visionaries, or it's in your work, do you try and just let's focus on this for the moment, get this down, then we can move on to this?
That's absolutely what it is. Because of what you've described, is that I have so many things in front of me. Where do I start? How? Where? And that's basically what we do when we slow down. What I do in sessions with clients, and then we slow down, and we they just kind of figure it out based off of the questions that I ask. And sometimes it takes a little bit more sorting, but yeah, that's just figuring out what to focus on. Hey.
So you said that you do a lot of jobs, like you have 4 jobs in 1 year, right? That's super cool. I think it's very impressive. But how do you leave lasting change when you do go from job to job? Because there's a lot of people that have their unhealed traumas. We have all sorts of generational everything, got life that we have to live. How do you still find yourself head above water, especially when you are affronted by so many other people's, damaged people or hurt people things?
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
How do I deal with you said the
people mostly, because you are you work with a lot of different kinds of people, and a lot of people then I think find who they like and they stick with them, but then you find that you can find goodness that I'm assuming then in everybody for a certain degree.
Absolutely.
How do you make that lasting change in people, and how do you deal with people who because you said you leave because of drama stuff, you leave because I want to be around kind people, and I want to be around people that don't drain my energy.
Right.
So how do you manage that when you are around people who do just
Yes. It's a journey. It really boundaries and knowing that you can't help and fix everyone. It's ultimately up to them, and all you can do is manage what you can control and who you want to be around. And just because you step away from people doesn't mean or workplaces doesn't mean they're bad people. I mean, maybe you can say they are, but it's just not right for you. So that's kind of the way I go about it. So I kind of take that pressure off myself to do that lasting change. I think I just trust that I will give my authentic self to those scenarios, and that if it helps, it helps. If it doesn't, I can't do anything about it.
Just a slight add-on to that.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard the term radical acceptance? That fits right into
Radical
that box
acceptance.
of understanding being your authentic self. You aren't meant for everybody. Everybody's not meant for you. That doesn't make it right or wrong. That just makes it keep on searching for that place. Which is,
and what I found is helpful in that keep the radical acceptance, keep on trucking basically. I also got better at knowing, instead of the red flags, I call it yellow flags. It's you hopefully find the yellow flags before you get to the red zone, because I found it easier for myself to notice, oh gosh, this person's saying bad things about another person behind their back. I don't like that. And again, it doesn't make them bad. It's just I don't want to partake, so that's my yellow flag. I'm going to step away, and I can still interact with that person. However, they're just a little bit, they're not as close to me as I would allow others in. So yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, on that line.
Yeah.
So when you work with clients,
Mm-hmm.
you help them understand themselves. But
Yeah.
do you help them understand the perception of other people as well? Because in that radical acceptance, I've just seen situations where one person thinks this person is just bad and it's just a toxic entity in their life, when it's just this personality of this person and how they process things, and the conflict there is just, you know, and they just, okay, I just need boundaries. I'm not going to associate with that person anymore. When I would think that there would be a benefit of interacting.
Yeah, absolutely. It really just depends on the person. I agree with you. You can choose to be fully away, or you, like I said, can just have them a little bit further away. And perhaps if you, so the perceptions part, like I think your initial question was, how do you help them accept the perceptions of others?
Even do you work in
So
that area?
I do not. We don't, pretty much my mindset is, the more you care about what others think about you, the less authentic you become. You are like Ben was saying, you know, you're an amazing human. You might not be everyone's cup of tea. I know I'm not everyone's cup of tea. And you kind of have to get comfortable with that. Because just like you don't care for being around these types of people, some people don't care for being around you. And it just is a journey, yeah. So, does that answer your question? Maybe? Or
Well, yeah. Well, it doesn't answer the question of how to deal with it, but it answers that, do you deal with it? Don't deal with it.
Well, we work on that because that is kind of the boundary work and the limiting beliefs. I do help them through the acceptance portion of that. I also highly encourage individuals, like I said, I built a referral list for when people do kind of go out of my scope. I highly encourage people to go to therapy because I am not a therapist. It really just depends on what that person needs. So if I'm in a discovery call or I'm working with a client and I realize they're out of my scope, I send them elsewhere. But because some of that is a little bit of therapy work, some past healing that someone might need to work through. But there are ways because I focus on present and future. So it really just depends on the person. That's why I like having my tailored approach to each individual, because there's not really a right answer for every single person.
You work with groups.
I am considering it at the moment.
I started my business. I'm going to have my daughter, my grandson, my other daughter's fiance, all working.
In your business? Well,
Yeah.
that's nice.
And I know there's difference with this.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be a challenge.
Yeah, that's that is a potential area I'm considering exploring as groups. Currently, I do one-on-one, but after this presentation, that's what I'm starting to entertain, is to consider doing groups. Yes.
No, go ahead.
So I'm more of an into the wild person, and there's a book and a film written about that, which is probably one of the most eye-opening things that I've ever watched, because that is my personality as far as my thoughts or my desires. If I had the opportunity to do that, I would do that. I wouldn't even think twice about it.
Yeah.
Dying in Alaska, it was kind of sucked, but that's my mentality, and I have close family members, and even my mom was this. You know, if I have to walk into the next room, that's too much change for me. So the problem is this person over here is willing to adapt, do something that's completely out of their comfort zone to try to make this person over here happy.
Yeah.
So, and like you've already said it, you can't make somebody else change.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you cope with that part of it? Because I think, for people who are as out and have that this type of mentality, that's hard to deal with. You don't want this person to change because you want to go out and run a canoe down a river. Right?
Yeah.
You don't want this person just to get in that canoe if they're not comfortable with the canoe, right?
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that boundary or dynamic?
So that is actually my marriage. My husband is a little resistant to change, and he's wonderful. He has excellent. We're a good combo because I am someone who I'm gonna go do this, and sometimes it's helpful to have that other person say, "Hold on, let's think about this." But sometimes I don't listen to him. So again, it's just it's just a balance. But then also what I've noticed is because I am the more adaptable person, like, so this is like more personal story than a client story, but because I am the more adaptable person, I did find myself kind of being like trying to make myself be fine with not changing, and that didn't work for me. What I end up doing is I make smart choices, because you can do that you have like that rapid thinking, and it might seem random to someone else, but it makes complete sense to you, and you've thought it through. You just thought through it really quickly. And people get to see you enjoying doing that. And then sometimes, so for instance with my husband, he's kind of pulled himself into doing things that he wouldn't have normally done. Like, we went to New Zealand and we swung through this giant gorge. I don't know that he would have done that had I not been a part of his life. So yeah, it's a very specific balance, and it kind of is just dependent on each individual person. So I think or is that a roundabout way of answering because your original question was how do you go about balancing when someone is resistant to change and someone is not?
Yeah. And I understand it's not a question they can probably answer in 30 seconds.
Right, it's kind of an individualistic approach, yeah, that has to happen. Yeah. Yes?
Are you familiar with boundaries, Dr. Henry Cloud's boundaries?
No, I thought you were going to say Nidra.
No, this deals with, it's where are my boundaries, where am I allowing others to cross my boundaries. It's an excellent book.
Wonderful.
For all of these boundary questions.
There are so many books that I want to read.
Well,
Thank
fun.
you. Now you added 2 more for me, and a third.
It's a top-rated one for all coaches.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I'll
So-
absolutely check that out.
I will text you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Awesome. Yeah. I can show, this is just if we had time, and you can just take this throughout your day. And it's just some questions that I find myself asking myself and clients, and it's pertaining to work and relationships. So when you're feeling frustrated, you can ask yourself these questions. And then the last one is pertaining a little bit towards family members, because I have to throw that in. If your family, would you allow a friend of yours to treat you the way that a family member is? So that's the end.
Well, we have a couple questions that we always ask
Yes.
Cassie, so I'm gonna move up over here.
Oh, sure.
So are there, we focus on entrepreneurs and small businesses. Do you have small businesses within Lincoln that you like to give your business to?
Absolutely. I feel like I need Cassie's Lincoln's Choice categories, so I'm going to stick to a few. So latest restaurant that I've been going to pretty darn often is Heoya, Heoya. Delicious food.
And what kind of food is that? I'm not familiar with that restaurant.
Sorry, a few people. Oh yeah, it's great. There's a couple locations in Lincoln. my Korean barbecue, right? Yeah. So it's really, really good. Check them out. They started out as a food truck, and they have a north and south location.
Oh, they're up at U-Stop.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yep. And then down near Costco.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Gosh, other ones. Well, I was going to make a joke earlier about the smashing plates. Smashing It 402 has been around for a while, and that's where you get to go break stuff. And that was definitely part of my entrepreneurial journey, is going and breaking stuff. And they're wonderful business owners, so sweet. So I'm sure there's others, but those are the two that come to mind.
I find the irony in developing that kind of business, and those people are really sweet.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
There seems to be,
Yeah.
like those two don't go together.
And they have a partnership to help teens that are going through a lot of hard things, and they have teenagers come break stuff. It's very cool. They're cool.
I think I probably always know this answer when we have guest speakers, but like, what gets you perked up? Like, what gets you up in the morning and start off your day?
Yeah, well, one being my almost 2-year-old, because he's really entertaining and funny, but also, it's I like to say adventure of entrepreneurship, and that's that I get to create what I want my day to look like. I get to go on adventures with, whether it's checking out a new Lincoln spot or traveling outside the country. So I'd say my kiddo and adventure.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Cassie, again for the speaker today.
Thank you.
So next week, and as always, I forgot to check. I got involved in something, and I did not check who next week's speaker is.
Is it you?
Davey.
Yeah.
Davey!
I thought so.
Well, I'm busy next week.
So
That's probably
Davey
for the
will be
best.
our speaker next week. I apologize, Davey, that I didn't know that. So,
Right. It's more of
Um,
a surprise though.
but now I know. So thank you for agreeing to be a speaker next week. We appreciate that. So everybody have a great week, and we will plan on seeing you next Thursday.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Oh, John left.